Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So we hope everybody is doing well.
Indeed, hopefully everybody had a nice day, got along with everyone, you played nicely, and you didn't bite anybody.
Zeke didn't bite anybody, neither did Sassy.
Right, they were really good today.
Although we have to share with you guys too. I mean, we've tried everything with them. The area that we're in has a ton of fleas.
Oh, yes.
A ton of fleas. We've tried everything natural. We tried one thing that wasn't natural. As a last result, nothing worked.
No.
So we ended up going to a local vet today, and they both got treated, and they have a lot of irritations and stuff from the fleas. First when we got to this area, it was just all the ticks. The one thing about an area where you're going to have a great growing zone and tons of vegetation everywhere, lots of water, lots of woods, lots of bugs.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of bugs. And even though we like to do as much as possible, naturally in balance, sometimes, you can use a little help, but you just want to monitor it and be careful.
Yes, and I do believe in the ahimsa, that whole principle of doing no harm. But watching the dogs be so miserable, it's went out and basically was using diatomaceous in the yard to try to cut back on the number of bugs that are out there, as well as there are some things that have decimated our tomato plants.
Yes, horrible.
They get to them so quick. Thankfully, it seems so that the plants bounce back and regrow their leaves. It's just it's a never-ending battle. I remember it being this way in the Columbia area, South Carolina, a bit too. Everything, I was so happy with most of what was going on in my garden, but wow, there was a lot more bugs than say up in Connecticut or Ohio.
Yeah, so that's life on the 3D.
Yeah, and again, as above, so below. Many of you are very familiar with this quote. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If not, I would have told you. I'm going away to prepare a place for you. And many people now, I've heard many people talk about different dimensions in regards to this statement. Again, it's all relative to our understanding of the world and worlds and reality and realities that are all around us all the time. And I just wanted to use some analogies because we're getting so much info in the channelings, because we've actually been doing a ton of channelings, sometimes 2 and 3 channelings a day. And so we want to relate what we're learning to you guys. And there's so much to relate, honestly, and it's so mind-blowing at the same time. And again, there's certain things that they can't share because it would impinge our human experience too greatly.
And that's probably the most important thing when it comes to channeling. You get what you get because of those rules. They're just not going to interrupt your life.
I've showed you guys this before, and so this is again out of what people will call the Hindu tradition. And again, everything is sometimes labels. The misinterpretation of the label sticks in so many ways, because when we're talking about Hinduism, it's really what we're talking about is the people of the Indus Valley area. So we're talking about the people that are living in the area below the Himalayas all the way to the ocean, the Indian Ocean, and in particular in the Indus Valley. But in reality, what we're talking about is the Sanatana Dharma. And it's the eternal law, so to speak, the eternal way, the eternal path, the eternal truth. And, this is the tradition that has so many different traditions within it, just like Christianity does. Yet there's a core that remains within all the variations. And at the center of it is the fact of We reincarnate, we have multiple lives. There are tons of different worlds, realms, so many different beings. And as we had shared, one of the Puranas talks about 432,000 different humanoid species. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
But it's the reality. So they understood that the Earth is on a certain plane. There's planes below it. There's planes above it. There's planes all around it, and there's many stars and many planets, and life is the norm because it's all about life.
Mm-hmm.
Life isn't an accident. It doesn't have to be just right, so to speak, like this Goldilocks realm, which you're only going to find like finding a needle in a haystack. No, it's all about life. And it's all about consciousness exploring all different possibilities from every single angle imaginable.
Well, yeah, because when you're in a place of wonder and you're in a place of curiosity, that brings beautiful growth.
And we look at Norse mythology, and you see the world tree of Norse mythology and the 9 worlds of Norse mythology. So that's a little bit more of a limited spectrum compared to what we get out of the Sanatana Dharma. But still, it's recognizing that there's more than earth and even more than heaven and hell, so to speak. That there are many different abodes of many different beings. I just thought this was cool as we see a depiction of the world tree with chakras lying on it. And in reality, we have chakras that are not even in our physical body. There's chakras below your feet that are actually in the earth. And as we're walking along, those chakras are staying in the earth. They're connecting us to Mother Earth. And there are chakras above our head that are connecting us to Source. And we were just replaying of channeling that Lakshmi had given us a message. Lakshmi is the goddess of prosperity and love, really, and so many wonderful, beautiful things. And she's very near and dear to us. And the way she said it was, I was just praying for you two to Source.
Yes.
That was her words, to Source. Now, is she using that word because that's how we view it, that there is a source? Of course, most people are familiar with the word God, but then God has been so distorted because we have the gods of Greek, Nordic, Roman, all different mythologies everywhere around the world. There's mythos of these, what we would call divine or semi-divine beings. In reality, they're beings. They're beings that perhaps have been through countless more incarnations than we have learned countless more about this, huge mega multiverse that's out there. They understand things a lot better than we do. We could relate it to the fact that, we might think of ourselves, if we are star seeds here that have been up in 5th, 6th, or maybe even 7th density, kind of view ourselves as being on a higher plane, perhaps. And maybe that's the case with most of the people on the planet, when the majority of them, say, for instance, have never gone past grade school. Well, yeah, maybe you have your doctorate, so to speak. But still, just like when I was going through karate, when you get a black belt, that's just the beginning of learning. It's the same thing because there's always more ancient beings. There's always beings with more wisdom, better understanding of the nature of reality and the nature of source and of ascension.
Absolutely. That's some really interesting stuff, and we do need to learn about it. I think it's something that we would be served well if we just learned starting from kindergarten, really.
Yes, but that would involve truthfulness and losing control and power, which is what this whole system is all about. It's all about the opposite of that. It's all about maintaining control and power through distruthfulness.
Yeah, then there's that.
through basically trickery and, always covering up that which could enlighten. Yeah, it's a sad situation, but that's this realm that we're in right now. And as I said before, it's not necessarily the case everywhere in 3D. Just where that infection, so to speak, has been raging. And yes, it is an infection. It's a black oozy infection, unfortunately, that infects consciousness with an alternative reality that is not really the nature that source intended, so to speak. But as we've said before, it is a free will zone, and that includes free will to the point where others will try and do impose their will on others. Free will in the sense that source allows all to happen. However, intercession is possible. And as we shared, Lakshmi was helping and working with us. What was she doing? She was interceding on our behalf with source. And, things can be rewritten. And, there's been great examples of how we should behave, how we should act, such as Yeshua and Buddha and others, that act out of pure compassion. You might not be familiar with Guru Nanak, for instance, who did come to me years ago, and I didn't know who he was, but he was the founder of Sikhism. And, again, he was somebody that was trying to bridge a gap between two different worlds philosophically, between the Hindu world and the Muslim world. And there was a lot of conflict between the two. So, in trying to come to a new understanding for others of the unity, we got to find those common core truths that underlie all the systems, which really it's all based on love and compassion. But he was trying to bridge that gap and bring peace. And so, he had come to me years ago before I even knew who he was. And after, him visiting with me in basically vision, then I had to do research and discover who he was because I had never learned about him. But another benevolent being of light. There are so many beings that their prime objective right now is bridging gaps between all the apparent differences, philosophically, ideologically, and even differences racially when we have these racial hatreds and biases. It's just horrible. Again, ultimately we're all consciousness. This is a vehicle. This is a vehicle. So, we need to let go of any sort of prejudices we have. And yeah, okay, maybe you're a Ford man and somebody else is a Dodge or a Chevy person and somebody else is like, give me Porsches or nothing. It's all just vehicles.
Yep.
It's all vehicles for consciousness. And it's something we need to learn. As we ascend upwards, we let go of that which does not serve, the higher vibrational frequency that is wanting to manifest itself in our lives. And it can be very painful. And they're making it more painful than it needs to be. And when we say there, then we're talking about, again, the ones that control this system. Because they're throwing everything from toxic water, polluted air, all sorts of poisons, all sorts of genetically altered foods, things that are doing your body, your temple, a disservice, knowing it's going to cause more pain for you. It's going to cause more suffering for you. It's going to lower your vibrations. It's going to make it harder for you to rise above where they are and where they can't reach.
It is. It is. And, they kind of specialize in it, which is a shame. But with understanding and knowing we can rise above and go around any block they might try to put in front of us, we can overcome.
So, if we look over here, we see Midgard. Midgard is Earth, right in the middle down there. And here we see Asgard, right? Home of Thor, Odin, etc., etc. Even though it's above and a notch ahead, and really what we have gotten is that when we're talking about beings like Aset, Isis. She's part of a collective. She's right now a sixth density being. And this is a key concept that we really have been dying to get across to you guys. She is ascending, just like we are. Her collective is ascending. So we could view it in simplistic terms as they're moving from sixth to seventh. They're moving a whole notch closer to source. And many beings love to hang out, like we had said, in fifth density. And many of them are moving from fifth to sixth. They're heading into more of a collective. Now, they could always choose, once you're on the higher ones, you could always choose to slow yourself down, so to speak, because again, it's all about vibrational frequency, and experience a little bit heavier reality. And again, heavy, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's just like, perfect cheesecake.
Oh, God, yum.
Yes, cheesecake's kind of heavy. But my God, does it taste good on the tongue. You
So
just
good.
let that dissolve on your tongue and feel it.
Oh, that tempting.
Yeah, I'm really getting to her. She's been dying.
Just a little bit of cheesecake.
But at the same time, it has its consequences,
Indeed.
and, whether that's, more around the middle, whether it's, heading towards blood sugar, insulin response issues, inflammation, everything has its consequences.
Yep.
Yet you can't deny that a good cheesecake is a wonderful
gosh,
thing.
he's going to get it after this, guys.
Sorry, guys. One of the things I wanted to point out too is like when you look at the devas, the deities, the gods, why are they imperfect? Because they're beings. Even though they might be, say, in Asgard, which we would relate to more of a high fourth density place. So what we have gotten is, like, when we're talking about the realm of, again, beings like Aset, sixth density, many of the devas reside most of the time in fifth density, but they could go between fifth, sixth, and seventh. And, we could also speak in terms of the angelic realm like this too. Again, angel, originally it comes from the word that means messenger. But from what I have seen and experienced, what we both have seen and experienced, I would say an angel is somebody that's in service to others.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. And can humans become angels? Yes, of course, all the time. It's happening all the time. And in fact, I think that would be our next natural progression. But there's choices too. There are choices to be made by the soul. It's because it is ultimately up to the soul. What the soul can achieve, how high a frequency it can hold, and what it wants to do. Because ultimately, again, it's free. It's a free will zone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to us. It's up to each individual. So yeah, Thor could get angry. Odin could get angry. Sometimes the deities, even though they might be on high fourth density, here we are in third density, but we are actually dipping our toes into 4D, and we are in 4D when we are sleeping anyway. But the thing that is interesting too, you have to learn how to control your reality. Lucid dreaming is learning how to control your reality. Lucid dreaming is definitely a good practice to try to undertake, and I would start again with a dream journal. And as soon as you wake up, just write down your dreams, because that will help you to start to control your reality, turn your nightmares into something much better.
Yeah, one little trick I learned when you're trying to remember your dreams is get used to, as soon as you open your eyes, ask yourself, okay, where was I just at? And then kind of drift back into where you were.
And so the darkness that we have in this world is a darkness that permeates other realities as well. And you could look at like, okay, well, what if we view the gods and all these benevolent beings, the highest of the angelic realm being way up here? We could view them that way, but in the reality, the angelic realm's constantly moving all over the place because they're in service to others, so they're up there, then they're down here. They're working amongst us all the time. And when we talk about spirit guides, so many spirit guides, we could also say they're angels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something to recognize and realize. But when we look at the roots of the tree way down low, you might look at those roots and think, oh, that's like 1D or 2D, you know, a lower density, and might have a negative connotation, but it's not really necessarily negative, because if it wasn't for that base and those roots, everything up above it wouldn't be.
Right.
So what happens here affects the realm of the angels, the devas, the gods. This is something that has been just kind of dawning in my mind, to the extent of which there is this interaction as above, so below. A lot of what goes on up there really depends on what ends up happening down here.
Mm-hmm. And, they do want us to, I guess you would call it, play big. They want us to live our lives fully, to the fullest, every day like it's our last, because it has an effect on them.
It does. And they actually were thanking us for our work here, because our work here is affecting their home, their new homes to be, and the higher densities. The more we can pull a better vibration, a more positive vibration down into, let's just say, the base of the tree, if we want to equate where we are to the base of the tree, or maybe we want to equate where we are right here, where the branch is starting to branch off, and to support all these realms above. As above, so below. We're critical. The higher we can hold, the higher they can go.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had my suspicions for a long time about who we really are. And again, it's a reflection. When we get up into the higher densities, we talk again about oversouls. And the oversoul has many lives typically, and some lives can even be concurrent,
Mm-hmm.
giving birth to multiple lives. The oversoul possibly could have somebody being born over in China, on July 4th, 1969, and then incarnate another portion of its consciousness over in the United States, on whatever, May 5th in 1973. And it's concurrent for the most part. This is part of the understanding creation and how things work, that can start to get very, very mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it is. We are much more complicated than we think. And you could say that you are just a small portion of the real you. You're something much, much bigger than, just Susie Jones, or, Amanda Cooper, whatever the name is, You're much more than that. Not just talking about your own individual incarnations, but the fact that, you could view the real you as coming off this oversoul, which comes off a much larger soul stream, which again will tie right back. Eventually, we have ties with the devas. We have ties with the gods. We have ties with the mightiest of the archangels. Just let that set in for a little while. And then you wonder, well, why will these dark entities leave when we tell them to, if we tell them to with conviction? Because do you really realize who you are?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how powerful you truly are? Because if we could tap that lineage, and we can tap into the power that is up above us in these higher densities, that is the bigger us, they'll have to flee.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. We have not just our souls, but the emotions that we carry with us are extremely powerful. And I do feel that's why a lot of entities are very curious about us, is because of our emotions alone, how our emotions can affect things around us in many different ways. And when you put emotion behind something, it really can do some good, and it really can do some damage. Emotion, energy in motion.
Exactly. You know, when you blow a dog whistle, you might not see anything. You're certainly not going to smell, hear, feel, or taste anything. But does that mean nothing happened? Because your dog can hear it. Your dog feels the vibrations going through them. When we look at the different musical notes, right? And we go through the scale. Well, we could also go a whole octave higher. This is basically how it works with the densities, to give you just kind of like a rough idea. They repeat themselves, again. So, as we go from the highest of the third densities to the lowest of the fourth, it starts to repeat itself. Same thing when we go through to the fifth and then the sixth, and so on and so on. And it's just basically changing by a complete octave, but we're running through the same patterns.
Right. And that's really, really interesting and really curious. When you start to understand things better and you can get a better grasp, that brings a lot of growth.
It does, and that's why I love what the wisdom that's kind of openly taught out there in the East, because it's talking all about consciousness. It's not talking, it doesn't really talk about like, well, you better get down on your knees right now, and you better do things like in a certain prescribed way. Well, you can't eat this, you can't, do that, you don't work on this day. It's not about all these rules and regulations and laws. No, it's all about consciousness. What are we? What is this matrix, this world that we find ourselves in? What about the other worlds? What about all the other beings that are all around us? It's an exploration of all the, how does this universe, multiverse really work? Not about, how do I better serve an Anunnaki god, who's not a god, or an Ijiji, these beings that are pretending to be gods in the first place, that just want our complete obedience. They want us to not question anything. Doesn't that sound like everything we're getting right now from our own politicians? Just, Simon says,
Yep.
Put it on. Simon says, put it off. Simon says, put it on. Put it off. Hey, I didn't say. Simon says. Take them away now.
That's right.
So this is an exploration, and these beings, the gods, the benevolent beings, the devas, the angelic realm, they have a vested interest on seeing us achieve the highest we can achieve, and they're doing all they can do without ruining this human experience. Because there is cosmic law, and I asked Cindy, I said, what do you think of cosmic law? And she said, well, karma, law, cause and effect. Yeah, exactly. That is how things work. And then of course we have those that know how to cheat the system and break the system by giving you an outlay of what they're going to do, putting it in a book, and getting you to accept it and believe, well, there's no way that can't happen because it's right here in this book, and believing that's the reality that has to come to pass because this is the way the ultimate creator wants it. No, it's not the ultimate creator that wants it that way. It's the ones that believe that you're a slave created to serve them. But that's not the case. Source didn't want anybody to be a slave. Source wants all to find their own way, and to do it in a loving and compassion tolerant way. So we just wanted to share this with you guys. Hope you found this interesting, hopefully inspirational. Thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. Make sure to check out Medicinal Foods, really good stuff. Use coupon code EEA for an extra 5% off your order. And as you fill up your cart at checkout, you get discounts up to 25% off and free shipping. As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.